Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports podcast. I'm Blair Kirchhoff, and today we are talking Kansas State football because it's Big 12 Media Days. Yes, Media Days seem to be held earlier every year. It's almost 2 months before the season begins, but here we are in Las Vegas talking football with beat writer Kellis Robinett. He covers the Wildcats for the Star and Wichita Eagle. And once we get past how I somehow managed to avoid eating Totinos all my life, we talk K-State. Kellis thinks the Wildcats are worthy of their second place prediction in the 16-team league, and that would put them in the Big 12 title game. Later, we discuss how Kansas State is poised to be one of the league's new power brokers with Oklahoma and Texas gone from the conference. Okay, let's kick off college football season talking with Kellis Robinett. And Chiefs fans, you'll be interested to know that we are sitting at a desk in the end zone of Allegiant Stadium, a few yards away from where Mecole Hardman caught his game-winning touchdown pass in Super Bowl 58. Kellis, be sure to talk into the Totinos mic here. I had to ask somebody today what Totinos was. I'm not familiar with the brand.
Your kids must come from a different generation. Totino's pizza rolls, yes. I don't know if there's any actual pepperoni or cheese or bread in them, but they're pizza bites. Put them in the microwave if you heat them up. They're a staple for anyone under like 15.
I am familiar with the pizza bite. I just don't remember that brand. That brand must be either new or Midwest or something. I'm just not familiar with the Totinos. But anyway,
did you try them with the lunch today?
No, were they
were
available?
Out there, yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm going to be all over that tomorrow.
I actually enjoyed. I had like 4 or 5. They weren't too bad.
Oh.
It brought me back to my childhood.
Did they have some marinara sauce to go with them, or?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah,
I'm going to be all over that tomorrow for sure. So the reason we're talking Totinos is because we cannot look anywhere at Allegiant Stadium without seeing a Totino's Pizza Rolls advertisement here at Big 12 Media Days, which have concluded day one. And here we are in Las Vegas. Kansas State was on the schedule today, and we got to talk to Chris Kleiman, several players. You got to spend some time with Avery Johnson, and let's talk about that. But before we do, let's get into, as these things always do, they start with the commissioner, right? Brett Yormark had some statements. I don't think he said anything as dramatic as he did a couple of years ago when he opened his State of the Conference address by saying that the Big 12 is open for business. This was before the Four Corner School came. But some interesting little tidbits came from Brett Yormark today, including the fact that the place where we're sitting now may become a bigger part of the Big 12.
That's right. I think it's safe to say that Big 12 Media Days is not going to be the last event that will be held in the stadium or in this town. I think we'll probably see this back here again. I think the Big 12 will become partnered with the Las Vegas Bowl, and we'll see Big 12 teams come out this way, which will actually be a nice change for the Big 12. They need some new life in that bowl order. Speaking as someone who's been, I think, to every single bowl, some multiple times over the last decade. I would love a trip to Vegas much more than another trip to Memphis or Houston or you name it. So that would be fun.
At least the team you cover goes to bowl. The other teams that the Kansas City Star and Wichita Eagle have covered, not always. In fact, very rarely. But anyway.
This is true. I'm just saying, though, a third trip to Memphis really isn't high up on my list in December. It's not the greatest place to visit that time of year. But, yeah, they want to make this more of a, Big 12 city, kind of like Kansas City or Dallas light. Have a big event here every now and then. And, I'm for it as long as you're not moving too many cool things out here away from the natural footprint. Why not? It's a fun place. And this arena is something else. It's big.
Yes, we're sitting in the are we in the end zone? We're not quite in the end zone at
I think
Allegiant
part of us
Stadium.
is on the
okay.
Well, we're in the same end zone where they won the Super Bowl.
That's right. We are sitting just a few feet away, then a few yards away from where Mecole Hardman caught the game-winning touchdown pass in overtime in Super Bowl 58. So, yeah, from a setup standpoint, it's just like it was in Arlington on the turf there with the Cowboy Stadium, here with the LA or the Vegas Raiders Stadium. But interesting place and beautiful. It's only about a 5-year-old building, right? I think it opened in the year of the COVID. I think the Chiefs' first game here was a 2020 game in which there were no fans.
Oh, wow.
But it is a beautiful building, and it'll be a site of more Super Bowls and like you said, maybe a bigger Big 12 presence down the road. And I don't have a problem with that as long as basketball stays in Kansas City. And I think Brett Yormark reaffirmed that today, like he does in most public settings. The basketball tournament is in Kansas City for the next several years, and the football game is going to stay at Jerry World for the next few years as well. So,
but after that, you never know.
You don't know well. And look, it's not like this is out of the crazy location now that the four corner schools are in the Big 12. So with Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado here, it's closer to basically we're on the western edge of the conference footprint, which is crazy. The conference footprint, every conference footprint is crazy, but the Big 12's joins that list.
Well, the wildest statement I've heard was last year when we were in Orlando for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, in which Kansas State beat North Carolina State. During one of the press conferences, they welcomed Chris Kleiman and said, welcome to Big 12 country. And it was like, oh my gosh, you're right. We are in Big 12 country for sure in Orlando. And, who knows? Someday maybe they'll say that about Vegas too.
Yeah. Okay, so like we said, Kansas State was our main focus today. And what did you glean from the Wildcats? Let's start. Why don't we start with this? They were projected to finish second in the preseason media poll, one first place vote behind Utah, one of the newcomers, and just ahead of Oklahoma State, which also got some first place votes. So any kind of chatter today that leads you to believe that they have been miscast as a team that would be favored if those preseason rankings hold up to be in the Big 12 championship game?
Yeah, I think second place is right about where they belong. You could quibble and say they should be first. They're as close to that as you could get without being first. You could also say, Oklahoma State beat them last year and was higher up in the standings than they were. Maybe they deserve to be second, and Kansas State should be third. So I think it's fair where they're starting. If there is anything to be upset about from Kansas State's perspective, it's that not a single one of their players made the Big 12 preseason team, which I think is a bit ridiculous. To say no one on Kansas State is an all-conference player is just not true. By the end of the season, they will have people on that team, and I don't see how you could pick a team to finish second and not have anybody on there. But I will say that is a tricky deal for any media member voting that stuff, especially when you're asking people from Utah and Arizona to vote in the poll who've never watched Big 12 football before. I'm sure they loaded up their team with people from the old Pac-12, whereas people in our neck of the woods loaded up their teams with people from the old Big 12. So, who knows how that stuff goes. But I did think it was interesting that today we had Utah, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State, and even Iowa State, four of the teams that are expected to finish in the top half of this conference. And a lot of the talk was on Kansas State. They've got just as much a shot as anybody here.
Who should have been given the strongest consideration for preseason All Big 12?
That is a good question. I nominated like 7 or 8 Kansas State players for it. I think you could say Hadley Panzer, one of their offensive linemen, who started right along with Cooper Beebe and Hayden Gillum the last couple of years. I think he's going to end up being one of the best offensive linemen in the conference. I think Austin Moore should probably be one of the best linebackers in the conference. And even though I can see why you wouldn't vote him there right now, because he's just a sophomore. If he has the year that people think he could, Avery Johnson could very easily be all-conference quarterback this season or next. Again, I see why you would go with Arizona's quarterback or Cam Rising or some of these players who've been around longer. But, strictly from a talent perspective, you're not going to find anybody with more than Avery.
Austin Moore, interesting guy. Got to talk to him a little bit today. He strikes me as the quintessential Kansas State Wildcat in that he seems a little undersized. For the position he plays, linebacker, but cerebral kid and just exudes toughness. He is going to end up being the leader of this defense, isn't he?
I think so. One other thought on who should be on the all-conference team.
Okay.
I would say it's a tough position, running back, but DJ Giddens can be there too.
Yep.
I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. Put up big numbers last year. Again, it's just tough with him because there's a lot of other good running backs.
Yep.
Do you take
had
Gordon?
better numbers?
Yeah. Do you take Ollie Gordon off? Do you not vote for Devin Neal? Do you take Taj Brooks off? It's tough. Deuce Vaughn never made first team All Big 12. I mean, just think how crazy that is.
And what did he ever do?
So I get it. But yes, Austin Moore is if there was a definition for, hardworking Kansas State defensive football player, he's it. He's a former walk-on. He's from the state.
Of course.
He was telling me today that I asked him if he didn't go to Kansas State, where would his backup have been? And he said, well, it probably would have been JUCO, or Emporia State was trying to get him on campus for a visit. And he said, no, I think I'm just going to walk on to Kansas State. And I just love those stories. And that's one of the best things about Kansas State is you get a guy who, he's telling my backup option was maybe Emporia State. And here he is 5 years later at Big 12 Media Days. And he's, I'm telling people he should be on the all-conference team. So, he's maybe doesn't have the same kind of ceiling as like Jordy Nelson did as a walk-on.
That's a name I was going to bring up. That's a
Jordy
Nelson story.
Yeah, exactly. The same deal. His scholarship offers before he decided to walk on to Kansas State were Emporia State and Washburn. So there you go.
Okay. All right. 5 Wildcats were here, including Coach Kleiman. That seems to be more than seems like everybody else brought 4. They brought 5. I don't read anything into that except that some coaches look at this as a kind of reward for their players, or maybe one at each position, many position groups represented. I don't know. But anyway, the tables are set up for 4 people, and there was always somebody like waiting here for K-State to sit down. So what I wrote for tomorrow. Let me ask you what you wrote. What is your story? What will be in the Eagle and the Star?
Well, what I found interesting was the Kansas State next season. And I think a lot of people's eyes are going to have this dominant rushing attack with Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, and DJ Giddens in the backfield. Those are 3 guys who are very hard to tackle, very fast. In DJ Giddens' case, very powerful. If they wanted to, they could probably run 75-80% of the time and win a lot of games. But Chris Kleiman went out of his way to say, you know what? I think people are overlooking the receivers we got. I think they're overlooking the arm that Avery Johnson's got. And honestly, I think we should throw it more than we did last year and the year before that, which really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting him to say that. So I kind of wrote about that and about how Avery said that the one thing he's looking most forward to this season is showing off his arm, because he thinks people just look at him as a running quarterback and he wants to prove himself as a pass-first quarterback. And that's not exactly what I expected them to say this season. And I was also struck by the fact that everybody just talking about the impact that Matt Wells has had on this team, coming in as the former Texas Tech head coach. He's coached some pretty good quarterbacks in his past. Jordan Love, who's with the Packers right now, is one.
At Utah State.
Ran an air raid at Utah State, ran an air raid at Texas Tech. He's bringing some of those principles into Kansas State, and they want to use him, which is interesting because they promoted an offensive line coach to be their new play caller, which you would think they're going to pound the ball, and just run every time. But no, they want to have a balanced attack, and it sounds like they might even lean pass first, which was not what I was expecting to hear, and I think is interesting.
I would like to see Avery Johnson run less. I would see him protected and not get banged up the way a lot of Kansas State quarterbacks historically have been banged up. I can they're either don't finish the season or they're limping at the end of the year. It's just the way K-State no matter who the coach is, uses their quarterback.
I mean, Will Howard last year was definitely the exception, not the rule. Right. And even he had some issues. I mean, like I remember when they played at Missouri, he could barely move at the end of the game.
That was early. Yeah.
Yes, it was very early in the season. But yeah, before that, I think Adrian Martinez always hurt. Skylar Thompson always kind of, every week you never knew if he might get hurt.
You had to be built like a linebacker, like Colin Klein.
Yes. I mean, yeah. Jake Waters, Jesse Ertz. Man, you could name a lot more. But yes, between Colin Klein and Will Howard, there were a lot of quarterback injuries. So I think it makes a lot of sense, especially Avery. Like, he's put on some weight. He's a strong kid, but he still has a skinny frame. He's just a sophomore. He's not the guy you want to be lining up and running QB power all the time with. So, yes, I endorse that idea. Have him scramble, but I would use him much like the Chiefs use Patrick Mahomes. Run when it's necessary, but certainly not by design.
We're sitting in the building here where he took off on a big, I think it was a third down play that kept alive the drive in overtime. That speaking of Patrick Mahomes, right here in this building. So,
Mr. Texas Tech himself.
Man, yeah, that was a little I asked the Texas Tech coach, Joey McGuire, about the relationship that exists between Mahomes and Texas Tech. And I couldn't think, and I didn't consider this strongly. I didn't spend time researching it, but off the top of my head, I cannot think of a superstar athlete that has a stronger, maybe more visible relationship with his alma mater than Patrick Mahomes has with Texas Tech.
I mean, Michael Jordan in North Carolina.
That's the one I thought of, because Jordan always wore the Carolina shorts under his Bulls, shorts. But yeah, it is amazing. But
I was honestly surprised with Texas Tech basically switched Under Armour to Adidas just because of Mahomes, really.
Yes.
And I was surprised they didn't do what Jordan does and have the Mahomes logo on all their stuff. I was honestly surprised they didn't take it that far.
They have it on the field.
They have it on the field.
The gladiator image on the field. Yeah, isn't that crazy? So what I wrote about today was making a case for Kansas State to become the new Big 12 power broker in the absence of Oklahoma and Texas. And I only include Texas because of the weight of their revenue. Texas is a financial kingpin. They were not a kingpin on the field. K-State had its issues with Texas over the last few years, but from a wins standpoint, over the last 5 years, they're within one of each other in terms of Big 12 victories. And historically, Kansas State is third and Texas second in terms of all-time Big 12 and overall victories. So I'm sure Kansas State folks don't think of themselves as taking a back seat to Texas. But the bottom line is, in terms of all-time overall and Big 12 victories in the history of the conference, of who was left after last season, Oklahoma first, Texas second, Kansas State third, Oklahoma State fourth. And with the Longhorns and Sooners gone, K-State moves up to number one. And they are the winningest program in the Big 12. So, not a plucky little underdog when you've got the most wins, when you're beating everybody. But that's it's nice to be number one, and I don't know if you can recruit to it or if it makes any difference. But I just found it kind of interesting that that's where K-State is, the winningest Big 12 program.
Yeah, I mean, they won a Big 12 championship under Snyder. They won a Big 12 championship under Kleiman.
Two under Snyder.
That's right. Two under Snyder. 2 under Snyder. 1 under Kleiman. They had a lot of success against Texas until recently. Mm-hmm. They've had a lot of success against Oklahoma. People joke that they left the Big 12 to get away from Kansas State. Tired of losing that game. So, yeah, I think from definitely wins-losses viewpoint in football, there's really no reason why Kansas State can't stay there and move up to the top of the conference. I think them, Utah, Oklahoma State.
I would stop at those three just because they have the best track record of the last 10 to 15 to 20 years, more so than Iowa State, more so than Arizona, certainly more than Kansas, which is getting a lot of preseason love.
Correct. TCU has had some success. They've had high highs, some low lows, as we see even the last 2 years, but they would be up there as well. But yes, I think that's the biggest question facing this conference right now is who is going to step up to the plate and become that new top dog. And right now, everybody just wants to talk about how deep the conference is, how much parity it has. And that's cool. That's great. It's fun to watch. But when you get to the end of the season, people want to see brand names, powerhouses. I do think somebody has to emerge. Could it be Kansas State? Maybe. I really don't know who to predict here, but I think a lot of it just comes with prestige, which is something you can't really measure.
Right.
It's what Ohio State has. It's what Michigan has.
Mm-hmm.
It's what
Texas has it.
Yeah, Texas, yeah. Oklahoma. Yeah, Texas. You can say all day, well, they haven't won anything in 10 years, but everybody still thinks they're good.
Right.
So
they have their own network.
Yeah, exactly. So who can do that? Who can, whether they win or not, everybody thinks they're the best. That's the team that we really need to worry about. But definitely from a wins-losses perspective, I would put Kansas State in the top 3 or 4. But yeah, who has enough cachet to, cascade all that and people think they're great even when they're not? I really don't know who that team would be. That might be like 10 years from now before we figure that out.
You're right. It might take that long to establish an identity.
Colorado kind of has that. They're not even they didn't even get to a bowl game last year.
They were 4-8. They after starting 3-0, they went 1-7 after that.
I hadn't really thought about that. Maybe we already have our conference kingpin, and it's Colorado. It doesn't matter if they
former national champion.
That's
Colorado.
right. That's right. Okay, well, there's your answer. There's my answer. Colorado.
Well, one thing that's going to factor into not just the Big 12, but all of the Power 4 leagues, which I am fascinated by this prospect and to see how it plays out, is the revenue sharing that's going to, pending a federal judge's approval, which is going to happen in a couple of years. Student athletes at all the colleges are in line for 22% of revenue generated by the university, but in athletics, which is going to come out to, it's been estimated, it's anywhere between $20 and $22 million a year going to the students. Well, that's, if everybody in the Big 12 ends up around that number, then to me it's going to be about, well, who the better coach is, who can recruit better, who can do more with what they have, and it almost makes it NFL-like in that you're all starting from the same place financially, and then it's just a matter of how you use your resources better. So I'm kind of fascinated by seeing how that's going to unfold.
Definitely. And yeah, we're talking about the parity that's in this conference already. If you had everybody on equal footing from a financial standpoint, that would even add to it. So, it's college football is kind of the wild, wild west right now, and that's one thing that might actually calm things, believe it or not.
For sure. All right, we've got one more day here in Las Vegas, and on the docket for Wednesday will be Kansas, among others. Let's have just a quick word on the Jayhawks. 9-4 last year, won their bowl game against the team that from this town.
The Rebs
plays here. The running Rebels from UNLV and Barry Odom's team, former Missouri coach. They're an interesting story. There'll be a lot of fascination with the Jayhawks just because of their how last year unfolded for them. But you know what? That was their first winning season since 2008. 08. They were 6-7 the previous year. So I don't know. I'm wondering whether I should be bullish on Kansas or not. Will there be a little regression? Sometimes, you write a column each week in which people refer to for their gaming habits. Is regression a thing? I mean, is it?
It is definitely a thing, and it could be coming for Kansas. They're going to have a new offensive coordinator. There's questions that toughness questions at quarterback, injury questions.
Yeah, injury
not
questions.
Toughness.
Yeah, for Jalen Daniels.
Jalen. That's where it starts and ends with me. If things go perfectly and this new offensive coordinator can hit the ground running and Jalen Daniels is healthy and plays in every game, this team should be really good. Maybe by the end of the season they're playing at Kansas State, and that's the game that decides the Big 12. It really might. It could be that big of a deal. But if they're starting, backup quarterback every week. They don't have Jason Bean to step in and do that for him anymore. The thing that's always confused everybody with that offense is their old coordinator would move people around so much. It just had defensive coordinators just completely discombobulated. I don't think their new coordinator's going to do that. So how much does that change things? I don't know. I mean, I will say this with Lance Leipold there, I think their floor has been raised tremendously. Even if if regression comes, they have a bad year, I still think you're looking at 7 wins in
a bowl season.
Yeah, which
I agree.
Which 10 years ago, any KU fan would have
sold their soul.
Yes, killed for. Are you kidding me? 7 wins? Of course I'll take that. The question with them is just can they make that next step and win a game against Kansas State, compete for a Big 12 championship? If things go perfectly for them this season, yes, I think so. But there are enough questions out there that I wouldn't. Like with their over-under, was it like 8.5 or something like that? I probably would not touch that just because things like that are too hard to predict.
Well, I'll make this declaration right now. They will not win a game in Lawrence this season. They will absolutely not win a game.
Oh, I was going to say that's another thing too. I think it's interesting that some of their biggest home games are going to be in Arrowhead against Iowa State.
Colorado, Iowa State.
Colorado. Those aren't going to be all home fans in those games, especially Iowa State. You might end up with more Clones fans at that game than Hawks fans. You really could. So, I mean, who knows how much of a crowd advantage, plays a factor in games anymore. But I've always thought they would have been better off just playing their games at Sporting, even if it meant selling less tickets.
So just 2 of them. They're going to play their first 2 at Children's Mercy Park. Lindenwood and I think UNLV actually comes there. So
those should be really cool environments. K-State played a spring game there. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. It's great to be that close to the action. I totally get why, if you're the athletic director there, you don't want to do that. You want to sell seat tickets. You want to have big crowds there supporting you. But if you could throw all that out, I think they'd have been better off just playing.
I covered 3 Division II NCAA championships at Children's Mercy Park, and they filled it up for one of them. That's when Northwest Missouri played. But anyway, that'll be the topic that I'm most interested in discussing with the Jayhawks tomorrow is how their world's going to change for home games. I don't think there's ever been a college football team that's been quite in this situation where they've been forced to go on the road for an entire season.
0 home games.
Zero home games, right. I remember the K-State baseball team did it a long time ago, played an entire season away
played games in St. Joe,
Missouri.
Woof. Woof.
All right, Kellis, always great catching up. We'll do it again soon. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks to producer Monty Davis for putting together the show and to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Kellis Robinett for sharing his insights. Thanks for listening. Let us know what you thought of the show with a rating and review. We'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC where we talk sports in and around Kansas City.